welcome back to another episode of JoJo's NBA. We have episode 7 here today. Once again, I'm Giacomo Imperiali, joined here by Avery Stets, Zalo, and Izzy Metal. We have one of the more action-packed episodes ready for this week. Segment 1, we have some quick NBA news that we wanted to cover, along with some team situationships, predicaments, whatever you want to call it. Then we're going to transition into some mock trades. Obviously, trade deadline approaching about 3 weeks away. We've already seen some trades go down, some hypothetical trades that could happen either before that deadline or going into the offseason. And then last segment, we want to talk about some rookies, who have really broken out, stepped into their role, some raising some eyes, about a quarter to halfway through the season. But we're going to first move into some news. Avery, as a Warriors fan, I'm going to let you take over this first segment. Draymond Green coming back off of suspension. You want to talk a little bit about him, just not him alone, but also what this means for this Warriors team coming up.
Absolutely. I think it's good news finally for Golden State, who is searching desperately for answers. Over the last few games, they have just looked completely out of sorts. Nothing's gone right. Star players not playing. The bench is not performing. Now Chris Paul is injured. Klay Thompson is all over the place. And you're looking for somebody who can rope all this chaos together, tie it down, and hopefully get something out of this chaotic season. And Draymond, as we know, is Draymond. He can do that. He can lead. And the Warriors need a lot of things. But right now they need spacing, rebounding, and defense. And Draymond can do all three. He can provide the space on the offensive floor. He can get guys going. He can, specifically his guy Steph and Klay, he can get them. He can get the ball to their hands where they want it, when they want it, and how they want it, so they can get into a rhythm. He can now be a presence on the defensive end. The Warriors need defense, and Draymond can carry that defensive load, not the entire time, but he can add some defensive presence that Golden State needs. And it's 100% positive that Green is returning, but Warriors still need more than just Draymond to fix something and get something out of this season.
Yeah, Avery kind of brought up the question I was about to pose. Zaylu, I was going to throw it to you first. Obviously, you've been, I'd say, one of the more Warriors haters on the show, more a little bit down. So the question that we have for this segment is, are the Warriors stuck, and does Draymond Green – I think we all agree that he's not going to fully change the momentum of this team, but do you think that the Warriors are stuck for the rest of the season until they do something drastic?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Avery, I just want to refute your claim real quick. You said that Draymond coming back, he can be a leader. He can help this team in many ways. I'm going to say he can help on the defensive side of the ball. He is a defensive anchor for this Golden State Warriors team. But one thing that he is not is a leader. We saw with him and Kevin Durant, he was the reason why Kevin Durant decided to leave that team. We know when the team is down in the dumps, and we know Draymond Green cannot be a leader to get this team going, keep their momentum going, and eventually this team is going to go down in the standings, and the Warriors are just going to be stuck. And I believe this is the year the dynasty absolutely ends.
Yeah, Avery, I'll let you hop back in because I know I see you shaking your head already.
I can agree with some things about the dynasty coming to an end, but I will disagree with the leader part. Draymond Green has a different way of leading. He's not your, come on, we're one team. He's holding guys accountable. That's what something a leader does. He holds guys accountable. Now, you may not like the way he does it. You may not like the fact that he screams at guys, curses them out, and causes chaos within the chemistry, but it's how he leads, and the Warriors need somebody other than Steph Curry to lead this broken team and get them back to where not where they should be and have been, being the most dominant team in the NBA, but getting them back into the playoff picture, which is right now what their goal should be. Just get at least into the play-in and figure it out from there. Get them back on their feet and just start winning a couple games and get them looking like the Golden State team that we know and have grown accustomed to seeing.
And I'm sorry, and that man is not Draymond Green to make it start. You said, oh, sometimes it's very hard to see how Draymond Green can get, maybe he's a little bit aggressive in his works with leading the team. We saw this last summer with Jordan Poole. He was extremely aggressive. He cannot lead the younger guys. We saw him attempt to lead the younger guys in Jordan Poole, but instead we got a fist fight with Mike Tyson versus George Foreman on the court, and Jordan Poole is eventually gone. This team is going to go down into the dumps. We're not going to see at least a play-in, but I don't think they're even going to win their play-in game. This team is done for the rest of the season in my eyes.
I feel like this Warriors have a little bit of a fighting chance left. But without Draymond, it is going to be a bit of a hit because he still is a pretty good defensive player. I feel like if they probably won't make the play-in at this point and the way they're going. And if they don't, I feel like Steve Kerr has to be the one being questioned over players like these because the way he's been coaching the bigs, Kuminga hasn't been performing well. The bench hasn't been performing well. Steph Curry's been inconsistent. I feel like you have to question the coach at some point. And at the end of the season, they will probably make the play-in. Probably not. We don't know. They're hovering around that 10th spot right now. And it's going to be a really struggle at the end of the season. I feel like if they don't make it, Steve Kerr definitely has to be questioned, probably fired.
Okay, I think it's a little outlandish to say that he's going to be fired. I can agree. I'm going to give a purely non-biased basketball take. It's going to be a little hard, but I will try. If you look at it from a pure basketball standpoint, when Draymond, Steph, and Klay are on the floor, that is a winning three. Now, it depends on who the other two are. We can figure that out later. That's a different question. But when these three are on the floor and they are clicking, now Klay, inconsistent. Steph, little inconsistent right now. But Steph is going to Steph, and Draymond's going to be Draymond. And Klay will always be there. He's always their next guy up to score. But when those three are on the floor together, if you look at it from a pure basketball standpoint, this team can find a way to win with just those three. They may not have all the pieces right now. It's not looking great. Even as a Warriors fan, it's not looking great. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. Maybe lucky with the play-in, but they need to find answers, and their answers start with that core championship team, three, with Steph, Klay, and Draymond. Those answers can be starting to be found within those core three. That's all I have to say. From a pure basketball standpoint, the answers can be once those three get back on the floor together.
Yeah, nonetheless, I think we can all agree. We'll talk about it coming to the mock trades. Warriors definitely need some shaking up if they want to make that push and change the thing. We're going to move into our last part of that little quick news. We have Ja Morant now being ruled out for the season, undergoing season-ending shoulder surgery. Izzy Metal, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about what this means as a Grizzlies fan and for this Grizzlies team. What does this mean for the rest of the year for Memphis?
The Warriors are struggling. The Grizzlies are going to be so much worse. Before Ja Morant suspension, they were 7-20. They were bottom or near bottom of the Western Conference. They're not making the playoffs without Ja Morant. They don't have the explosiveness. They don't have the attacking. They're just a defensive team now. Like, you won't get that from Marcus Smart. Desmond Bane maybe, but again, he's not a star. He's not the number one player that you need in order to make the playoffs and have a deep run. Ja Morant was that guy. He was an amazing point guard, one of the best in the West. And now that he's not there for the rest of the season, the Grizzlies are going to have an awful time, going to have an awful few months. They're going to have to figure out a way to do something. Playoffs is out of the question. Maybe tank for a good trade. I don't know what the plan is here, but, it's just awful for the Grizzlies. I feel so bad.
Yeah, I was literally just about to bring up the same thing, Izzy. This Grizzlies team was struggling before Ja Morant, and then Ja kind of came back. You almost felt that the Grizzlies were this rejuvenated team. Like, all right, like maybe they can start competing, crawl their way back into a 5 to 7 seed, make the playoffs. But with Ja Morant being out for the year, I will 100% back. I think that the Grizzlies should not even compete. I think that they're going to be in the race for bottom of the West, especially because of how good that this Western Conference teams are. A loaded West with a ton of great teams. And this Grizzlies team just can't compete without their star player. I think we can all agree on that. Nice and easy. Now, we're going to move into three, we'll call them team predicaments or team situationships. We can argue these a little bit because they're different. A lot of teams in different spots. The first one I want to bring to the table. So last night, Tyrese Halliburton suffered an injury in his knee. He's going to be out about 2 weeks, but nonetheless, the Pacers were able to win that game against the Celtics. So the question to bring it up to the table is this Pacers team legit? Like, are they a good team without Tyrese Halliburton? And can they, take this leap to being a great team in the East outside of their star player? Like, are they going to be able to carry the load while their guys off the court? Zaylo, I'm going to throw to you first. What are we thinking?
Sorry, could you repeat that real quick?
You're good. So obviously Tyrese Halliburton got hurt last night in that Pacers game. They ended up pulling out the win versus the Celtics. Do you think that this young Pacers core is going to be able to sustain success without their star guy on the court? He's only had 2 weeks, but does this mean that this Pacers team is legit and they can, maybe scratch the surface against some of these bigger, dominant Eastern Conference team in the playoffs?
I mean, I do think it's possible. I think Buddy Hield could honestly lead the way for this team, take over the reins for this Indiana Pacers team with Tyrese Halliburton being out. We know Miles Turner can get it done. Those players need to step up and take over the way that Tyrese had. Tyrese took a majority of the shots, had majority of the ball in his hands during the time he was in. And just the way they stack up against bigger teams, it's coming up to those two guys. And that's the only way I see them producing when their star player is out.
I'm gonna have to 100% agree with Zaylu here. Tyrese Halliburton is gonna be a big loss for 2 weeks. Probably the best playmaker in the league right now. And for him to be out, the sort of glue that glued the Pacers together right now, it's lost for 2 weeks only though. But still, Miles Turner's gonna have to show up. Buddy Hield's gonna have to show up. The bench gonna have to show up. Bennedict Mathurin, who had a good rookie season, is gonna have to show up also. This Pacers team just have to lock in for these 2 weeks without Halliburton, so that they don't tank and lose a lot of games within these 2 weeks. Tyrese Halliburton is going to be a big loss, and they have to figure out a way to do something. I believe that they can. The coaching is great there. And I'm going to talk about the Pacers later, even with Halliburton, their deep run. But in these 2 weeks, I feel like they could make their way.
Yeah, as you brought up the two guys I wanted to bring up, obviously, Miles Turner, averaging almost 20 a game. I mean, I think everyone's a little surprised by that. He's having a very underrated season for the Pacers, playing really well, along with Bennedict Mathurin, has been that wing presence that they need. So I'm going to 100% back you guys. I believe Avery agrees too, that this Pacers team, they have a good core. They can sustain success without Tyrese Halliburton, but they're going to need him come playoff time. Moving on to our next segment. I'm going to throw this to Avery first because I don't want the biased Sixers of Izzy Metal coming in first. So obviously Joel Embiid dealing with injuries throughout most of the season. Avery, if you're the Sixers and Embiid keeps dealing with these injuries throughout the year, are you starting to hit the panic button, especially come playoff time, if Embiid is still struggling with all of these injuries?
No, not really. It depends on if Embiid's injuries continuously get more and more frequent and carry into playoff time. So he's getting injured more and more frequently as the playoffs approach. And what happens when your star player is out? You start to drop in seeds. So I'm not hitting the panic button yet. I think the Sixers can carry on without him pretty well. But I would raise a little bit of concern, but not so much to hit the panic button and go shopping for trades and everything. I do think they're going to be okay without him for a little while.
See, but here's my problem: this is completely non-biased. I'm just watching as a fan. He was injured. He was sort of injured against the Knicks and ended up playing and looked absolutely terrible. He looked like he just didn't look the same. So my point is, if this guy, he's been injured on and off the court all season. If these injuries, it's kind of almost been Anthony Davis-esque so far this year for Embiid. He's been on and off the court constantly. So if I'm the Sixers and I'm looking at this team, Maxi's a great player, don't get me wrong, but he can't carry this team. He physically can't. They need more help. So if I'm the Sixers, I am shaking in my boots if Joel Embiid is not on the court, especially for big-time games. I don't think the Sixers are a very good team without him. And that's just me being honest. I mean, that's what happens when you lose the MVP. But I'm 100% going to hit the panic button if he's not playing and he's not 100%, especially come playoff time.
Okay, so let's see something. Number one, terrible against the Knicks is still 30-10. So that's how good of a player he is. Just wanted you to know that.
I mean, they lost by almost 40 points, and he played terrible defense. So,
I understand that, but it was actually more or less better offense from the Knicks than even from the Sixers because other players were just popping off, to be honest with you. But still, Joel Embiid being out, I'm not hitting the panic button yet. I will eventually if these small injuries keep going because he's been out for like 4 games, 5 games. He had the flu back at the beginning, and now he has a knock in his knee. I feel like it's just not yet because these injuries aren't sort of long term; they're more short term injuries. But if they keep getting like more and more frequent, then at that some point you do have to hit the panic button because he is an MVP. He is the best player in the world, and I feel like it's just gonna be hard without Embiid for the Sixers. I feel like they could still like trout their way on, but they do need like another star, another good player. And I will talk about that later in the trades, but I feel like not yet. Soon though.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair take. Obviously we're gonna have to wait and see what Joel Embiid's health is gonna look like come crunch time. Our last team predicament, I'm actually gonna start this one because I think I'm gonna catch a lot of debate of this. So the Orlando Magic are a very surprising team and climbing up the ranks in the East. Do we think that they're a legit team and can really cause some noise in the East? And I'm gonna go first, and I 100% think they can. Paolo Banchero since January 1st in the new year, 34 points a game with 11 boards. I mean, this guy is really becoming an absolute stud. Every year, his numbers have gotten better. Since the beginning of December, averaging 27 a game. I mean, this guy has just been so good for the Magic down the stretch. And we have to forget that the Magic are on this hot streak without their number 2 option. Franz Wagner has been hurt for most of these past couple of weeks. So you have to take into account this is a very, very young Magic team currently sitting at 4th or 5th in the East. And a lot of people are underestimating them, in my opinion. I think that this Magic team is a very, very good team. Now, I don't think that, that they're title contenders by any means, but I think that, they can cause some noise in the East, maybe win a playoff series or two, and they're going to continually just get better every year. They have their guy in young Paolo Banchero, and they have the pieces to build around him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll take the first addition to this. I got no idea. I don't really know the Atlanta that well. I've seen them play. They look pretty good. I just don't know. I don't know if this very young team can make some real noise against the juggernauts in the East, the Bucks, the Celtics, the Sixers, all the heavyweight teams that are just doing what they do best, dominating the East. I don't know. I think they could be your dark horse in come playoff time if they get there. I think they could slide in through the play-in and make some noise in the first round. But I don't think they're. I don't know. I'll have to see as the season goes on if they're really looking like a decent playoff team or they're one of those sneaky play-in teams like the Heat was last year.
I'm actually gonna have to agree with Avery. I think this team, they have the potential to be very good. Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, as you said. But I feel like in the Eastern Conference, that's been where most of their 16 losses have come from. Those losses are going to add up after a while. And then once you go into playoffs, you're going to have to play these teams a lot more. In the season series, they are down, I believe, either 2 or 3-0 to the Boston Celtics. They're down in the season series to the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, just teams you cannot be losing to if you want to be up there. But like Avery said, sneaky play-in teams are exactly what we've been seeing for the past couple of years. This Orlando Magic team, I think after the All-Star break, they might drop down a little bit, go to 7th, 8th, 9th place because the Eastern Conference is extremely tight right now. But I think once they lose a couple of games after the All-Star break, they're going to be there, be in the play-in, win games, and they're going to shock a lot of people. Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Cole Anthony, and a guy like Jalen Suggs. Those are going to be the top guys in that playoff series for them, and it's going to get them a lot of wins.
So I'm going to disagree with all three of you here to an extent. I believe that they won't be a threat this year or next year, but after those 2 years, I feel like there's something really scary is going to happen in Orlando. I'm saying this because as good as Paolo Banchero is, there and Franz Wagner is, there isn't really like a second or even first like well-known star, because people who won championships in the past few years, they've had that sort of player. For Denver there was Jokic, for the Warriors it was Curry, Lakers it was Braun and stuff like that. Before they don't really have that like one key player that will just be amazing offensively for them. They have a lot of aggressive players on the court daily with Paolo Banchero, Jalen Suggs, and players like that. Wendell Carter Jr. is also a really good big, catching lobs and stuff. But I feel like right now it's just not. They don't have that player, I think, that could win them like anything past the first round exit. But eventually, they're gonna make a move. They're gonna make a trade, and it's gonna be a really scary time in Orlando.
Listen, real quick, and then I'll move it on. I think even without a trade, I just think you can't disregard how good Paolo Banchero is as a basketball player. I mean, I brought up 34 points against only in 3 games to start the year, but he's a legit number one option. And I think if you surround him with the right pieces, they can 100% be a major contender in a year or two. I mean, I'm not comparing him to Giannis, but if you look at the Bucks title year, it was about the first or second year Giannis took that leap into becoming an elite number one guy. And Paolo's numbers show that he can take that leap. His numbers have gotten better and better each month, especially since the beginning of this year. It's only his second year in the NBA, super young guy. So I think that the Magic, if it's not this year, can at least next year really start causing some noise in the Eastern Conference. We'll move it on, though, to our second segment, some mock trades. We kind of hinted at it a little bit, a couple of teams that have needed to shake it up. Avery, I'm going to throw it to you first. We're going to go clockwise. Each have about 1 to 2 trades. Avery, I'll throw it to you first. What's your mock trade that you're bringing to the table?
Mock trade, a bit of a nostalgic reunion. Golden State. This is something that I kind of agree with. Did some research, saw it on NBA Insider. Rumor going around. Golden State is open to explore options with Kevin Durant coming back, and they would get Kevin Durant, who is on a 3-year, $146 million contract, and the Suns would get Chris Paul back, Wiggins, and Moody or Kuminga, depending on the cap space. And if Golden State needs or feels that Kuminga can't really provide what they want from him, I obviously, as a Warriors fan, I want this to happen. I want him to come back. I know Isaiah already disagreed with me because he doesn't like the Warriors, doesn't want them to win again. That's okay. We'll deal with that a different time. But this could be fun. Highly unlikely. I don't see this happening. It's just fun to speculate this. This could be a very fun trade if it happens. I don't think it will. But if it does happen, there's a lot of positives besides defense. Defense is the only problem that they would lose from getting Kevin Durant back. But they can counter that with their overwhelming offense that we saw in 2017 and 2018. I thought it was just fun to see this, and I thought this could be fun to do. But I will say, when going over this trade, I swapped out Kuminga for Moody because Golden State doesn't want to trade Jonathan Kuminga away. And Wiggins is a very big problem coming off the bench. This guy can't play. So I think if they do this little mini reunion, Golden State, this could be fun. And I'll wait for Isaiah to come back and flame me for this nostalgic trip that I'm taking right now. So Isaiah, please go ahead.
1 sec before the bottom of the screen hops in, Avery. I'm not going to, obviously, all hypothetical. The one thing I will say about the Warriors, though, is yes, they don't want to give up Kuminga, but if you're going to get a star, you're going to have to. I don't see a way where I'll talk about it in my trades. I have Golden State in one of my mock trades as well. You can't trade for a legit guy if you're not going to give up Kuminga, who's by far their best young piece off the bench, especially with what happened with Steve Kerr and the benching. He came out and vocally spoke about how he wasn't happy and lost a little bit of trust in the Warriors organization. I don't see how they can trade for a guy and not give up Kuminga.
Yeah, but they did express that they're not interested in shopping for him. But if they are going to get a legitimate star, he does have to be part of it. But as of right now, I didn't have him in my trade because they're not exploring options for him. But down the line, come trade deadline, if this trade somehow happens, I don't think it will, but this mock trade can only work if Moody or Kuminga to clear that cap space and send out another star to bring in a great scorer that Golden State desperately needs because Steph needs help. The whole team needs help. So I think this trade might work in their favor if it never does happen.
Yeah, I'm going to let the bottom of the screen hop in and debate this.
Yeah, here he goes.
Isaiah, you want first or me?
I'm gonna let you get it.
Oh, great! I'm getting double teamed over here. You gotta be kidding me.
All right.
Mock trades, guys, this ain't real.
I know this is a mock trade. So 1, yeah, this is definitely not going to happen. 2, I feel like the last thing that the Warriors need right now is Kevin Durant. The last thing that they need is more ego in their locker room. Right now, the locker room is awful as it is, and Kevin Durant, another star coming in, is just not the fit right now. I feel like I think someone probably will mention Pascal Siakam to the Warriors. That's a much better trade, like a second star behind Curry. So much better than Kevin Durant, who just another star, like another. Like it was good back in 2018, 2019, that time, but not now, especially with all the contenders now. It's not just the Warriors and the Cavs like it was before. I feel like Kevin Durant is the last thing the Warriors need right now.
Isaiah, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry. The trade was just so insane. I couldn't talk about it. I know it's hypothetical, like Isaiah said, but it's still insane to me to think that a Warriors fan would want Kevin Durant back on to this Warriors team. I mean, just the fact that your team isn't contending, he just would not go to the Golden State Warriors. He's on the Phoenix Suns right now. He's a top, in my opinion, top 10 player in the NBA. And to go to a team that is struggling with Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson, I just think just isn't a possibility whatsoever. But I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt because at the end of the day, it is all hypothetical. So, yeah.
Yeah, and also one thing, Draymond Green's still on the Warriors. He's suspended, but he's still on the team, and the fallout of Kevin Durant happened because of him, and he's still on the team. So I feel like just the locker room mood is just not going to be good with Kevin Durant back. I feel like they just need a new player, a new secondary star behind Steph that would definitely help them a lot more than shopping for another star.
Okay, but what Golden State needs right now, yes, another star. And Kevin Durant is another star. But if you look at the bottom, from the top 10 teams in the West, the bottom 3 of those is Golden State, which actually I don't think they're in there anymore, but it's Golden State, the Lakers, and the Suns. So the Suns are struggling just as much as Golden State are, but they're doing it just a little bit better than they are. So the Phoenix Suns have problems of their own. And Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, it's working, but not really. So I think, well, yes, it's a mock trade. It probably won't happen. This option for Kevin Durant brings him back to some place he knows and some place where we've seen it's worked in the past. I know it's not 2017 anymore. I have accepted that as a fan. But from a pure basketball standpoint, to shake the league up, this is why trades are fun, and this trade would shake the league up completely. I don't think it puts Golden State back to the top contending teams. I think it would shake up the league and create some chaos, which is what trades are supposed to do. And I would think it would make the league a little bit more entertaining to bring back one of the most entertaining offenses back into the league just for a little bit of fun. But I do agree with you, Izzy, that Golden State does need a star, and the star could be Kevin Durant. Highly unlikely, but he is a star. But and I think it could be one of the stars they need if the stars that they want isn't available and they still need one.
Yeah, it would definitely shake up the league. Zalo, I don't think that yours is going to be as drastic as that, but I'll throw it to you next for your mock trades.
So my first mock trade is actually going to be Zach LaVine going to the Los Angeles Lakers. I think this is definitely an actual possibility of happening, but the only reason I don't see this happening is because of Zach LaVine's egregious contract, with it being $180 million guaranteed on the rest of his contract for 4 more years. And also giving up D'Angelo Russell and a lot of your picks and a lot of people off the bench is definitely not something you want to have. But Zach LaVine going to the Lakers, I think it's going to be a great addition for this team. You got another 21-plus point scorer on this team to go along with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and it can honestly propel you into the top of that Western Conference standing.
Yeah, and then Zaylu, you have a second one right there. You want to just elaborate a little bit more on that one, and then we can all hop in debate your 2 trades.
Yeah, this is an extreme reach right here, but what I'm going to say might surprise a lot of people. I'm going to start off with Donovan Mitchell going to the Nets. I think this has a tiny possibility of happening. He already has said he wants to go to the state of New York. The Knicks made the trade with OG Anunoby. I think they don't have the firepower that the Nets can trade along for Donovan Mitchell. You got Dorian Finney-Smith that can be traded. One of the best field goal percentage shooters in the entire NBA is top 10. You got Lonnie Walker who can be traded, Royce O'Neal, just the amount of points that they can put onto that Cavaliers team. We've seen it done before with Jared Allen. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again. And Donovan Mitchell, I feel, would be an exceptional addition alongside Mikal Bridges, Nick Claxton, and the rest of this Brooklyn Nets team. And the second player, I think, he's a little bit of a villain to MSG, and I think this could just add to the rivalry between the Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks. Trae Young going to the Brooklyn Nets. I think it would be an insane addition. You get a very good court vision, prototypical type point guard. He's able to dish the ball. He's able to create his own shot. He can create chances for Mikal Bridges. You got Nick Claxton going down the paint. He's able to focus in on his defense and his rebounding perspective. And Trae Young going here would allow the Hawks to tank, which they want to do, because we know they're either going to trade away DeJounte Murray or Trae Young at the deadline. I think it's a perfect trade for both teams. And honestly, both of these might have one of the best hypothetical chances of actually happening.
Yeah, I'm going to hop in first real quick. And you know how many problems I have with this? Zero. I'm actually a very, very big fan of both these. Zach LaVine, we know, is going to be traded. It's a matter of where. And the Lakers have been rumored to call the Bulls about trading for this guy. And I think it's a great fit next to LeBron. You know, the Lakers are obviously going to be competing for top of the West. And LaVine, I think, is a great fit next to LeBron and AD. And then with the Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell, I don't think to the Nets. But I definitely do think that Trae Young could be moved. The Hawks are just out of this world struggling. They are just not a good basketball team. But Trae Young is putting up the numbers, and he could definitely contribute to some kind of winning team. You know, and the Nets with Mikal Bridges, if they get the couple of right pieces, could definitely be in the mix. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year. You know, they draft a guy, they trade for another role player. They could definitely be in the mix in a year or two for the East. Now, I don't think Donovan Mitchell is going to be leaving anytime soon, at least for another year. I think he'll stay put in Cleveland. But he could definitely be moved too. You know, there's Cleveland's had its own struggles. But all around, for completely hypothetical, I really don't have a major problem with any of these mock trades.
Yeah, I want to say something. The Zach LaVine trade, I'll mention him later. I really do love the idea of him leaving Chicago because it's just not working there. Donovan Mitchell, another good piece that's probably going to leave Cleveland, go somewhere. I don't know. The Nets is a bit of a stretch, but I do like the idea. Trae Young, though, however, as good as he is offensively, his defensive work rate is horrendous. I'll keep talking about this. I am a really big Trae Young hater, not because of his offense, but because of that defense. His work rate is bad. His efficiency in defense is bad. And the Nets right now, as good as a defensive team they are, I don't think they need to have a block in their defense.
I mean, the defensive side of the ball would already be taken care of. Mikal Bridges is one of the best defensive players, in my opinion. Top 25, top 15, if you want to keep it a little bit higher in the league. He'll be able to take the load off of Trae Young's back, and he's able to anchor the defensive side of the ball. He's able to have Lonnie Walker beside him if he's not given up in this trade. And Nick Claxton will most likely still be here getting it done in down low in the paint alongside Day'Ron Sharpe. And I think that just refutes the original claim of Trae Young not being good on the defensive side of the ball.
I think I'm going to do something pretty rare. I agree with Isaiah here on the Trae Young defensive take. I definitely think that they can take the defensive burden. But the only thing I kind of have a problem with is that Zach LaVine to the Lakers is a very good possibility. It hasn't been working since day one in Chicago. Zach LaVine needs to get out of there. But I don't think them trading for Zach LaVine is going to solve their struggles. I think it gets them closer to a playoff spot, but I don't think it's one of those. I think it's more of a large Band-Aid on a really big wound that doesn't really cover it all the way up. But I do like the Zach LaVine to the Lakers. I think that's a very good fit for him to play alongside LeBron James. And Donovan Mitchell to the Nets, I can't really say no to that.
Yeah, definitely a couple trades that could shake things up. I just want to throw something in here. It has nothing to do with the segment. It's some breaking news, actually. I just wanted to bring this up to the table. We don't have to talk about it. Erik Spoelstra, the coach of the Miami Heat, just received the second biggest coaching contract of all time, an 8-year, $120 million extension for the Miami Heat. Definitely earned it. Just wanted to bring that up to the table. A huge contract for the Heat. So they definitely have their coach of the future. But Izzy Metal, I'm going to throw it right to you for your two mock trades. You can talk a little bit about them, and then we can hop in and debate you.
Yeah, so my two mock trades are actually, I think both of them are really, really realistic and sort of like the KD to the Warriors and Mitchell to the Nets more likely to happen. So the first one, I'm gonna go with Markkanen to Philly. I feel like the Jazz are struggling right now. I feel like being the middle team is like the worst place to be in the NBA because you're not really competing for a championship, but at the same time, you're not gonna get a really good pick. So I feel like the Jazz just sort of have to restart this January. And LaVine to the Pacers is an interesting one. I feel like if the Pacers can put a package together to get a really good score that could work around Halliburton's playmaking and the spacing from Miles Turner, I feel like that's going to be a perfect fit. And I feel like LaVine could be a one option and Donovan Mitchell the second one. I feel like if you just put one of those two together on those Pacers team, it'll be really, really tough on the offensive end because Halliburton, as good as a scorer and playmaker as he is, he could definitely find Zach LaVine open so many times because of the double teams that he's been getting. And Miles Turner, probably one of the best rebounders in the game, it's going to create so much space for LaVine also.
Yeah, I'll second that, but I only have one problem, and it's who you giving up for Markkanen in Philly, and Zach LaVine's not going to the Pacers. He's going to go somewhere out west. He wants to get out of the East. He wants to get out of the Midwest. He wants to go out west to somewhere where he's more free. And the Pacers, I don't think they need another scorer because they already have Halliburton and Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. They already have their nice little young core three guys that they know can play very well together. So I don't think the Pacers need Zach LaVine right now. I like it. I don't think that's what they need. I think the Lakers are better suited for him. But who are you giving up in Philly to get Lauri Markkanen? Because you have to give up at least two role players and, I don't know, a pick or something to get Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah, I have a package, an exact package of an idea. I feel like one, Tobias Harris has to leave. As good as a player is, I love him really much. That $40 million contract is insane. I don't think he's good enough for a $40 million contract, and the cap space, like Harris, just has to go. And Furkan Korkmaz, he's also been really good for Philadelphia over the years. A really good catch and shoot player. He's like a role player that could go. Daniel House, a 3-and-D wing that could also go, and Jaden Springer, who hasn't really had like a good time in Philadelphia. They also have 2 firsts for this draft and another first in 2025 that could also be shipped away for Lauri Markkanen. And I also feel like since the Jazz also have to trade another player for their cap space availability, I feel like Jordan Clarkson would be the one player that they could add to Philadelphia that Philadelphia could really benefit off of a 6-man that could be really efficient like him. And the Jazz, they just have to restart, I think. I don't think they're going to be competing, and they should start to like worry about maybe we could try to find a better player through the drafts. Not this year because this draft is a bit underwhelming, but definitely 2025 is going to have a lot of good players. I feel like the Jazz should have to just start shipping out players because they also did trade with Gobert for a lot of picks. That's already like the sense of a rebuild happening. I believe that's the way they could go.
All right, I was going to agree with you, and then I think I can speak for everyone else on the show. This Lauri package that you have just is not good. If you're the Sixers, you have to give up a lot more. If I'm calling the Jazz, you got to give up a lot more than Tobias Harris, Furkan Korkmaz, and a pick or two, in my opinion. I think if I'm the Jazz, Lauri's really the best piece that you have. He's a young all-star, and I get you want to get him, but I just feel like you got to give up more if you're the Sixers for the guy. Now, I definitely think it could happen because I think the Jazz will want to move him for some futures, but I think it's realistic. I just think that if you're the Jazz, you have to give up a little bit more.
Yeah, and didn't you also put Tobias Harris as the number 3 best power forward in the NBA, and now you want him out of Philly?
I did. I
What-
do
what-
love him. I do think he's a wonderful player. Just he's not worthy of a $40 million contract, I think. And Philadelphia have to get rid of him eventually. Before they have to, re-sign him. He's gonna ask for more money, which just shouldn't happen. Furkan Korkmaz actually has been really good, throughout the years. Not as of recently, definitely not as of recently, but he has been good. Daniel House, 3-and-D wing, Jaden Springer, a young point guard that probably will get more playing time at Utah, and probably get his feet off the ground a little bit more. And the 3 firsts and also 2 seconds is a lot of futures for the Jazz. I feel like Philadelphia should add more, but as of right now, they don't have enough pieces. But sooner or later, they'll definitely. Maybe they can add Kelly Oubre to it. I don't know, but it's possible. It's a mock. It's like not really the perfect trade, but I feel like something can happen.
Yeah,
so
no, definitely. It could switch the league up. Definitely could happen. Jazz could look to move him. And I'm actually going to second that the Jazz are going to move him. If we're going to transition into my 2 mock trades, first of all, I'm going to have Pascal Siakam going out to Golden State. I think that this is by far the most realistic trade for the Warriors. The Raptors have been trying to move Pascal, clearly have been trying to move him. I mean, they already got rid of OG Anunoby. They're looking for a lot of draft capital for their guy. And I think what better team than the Warriors to get him? You do a package centered around Kuminga, Chris Paul, and picks, and maybe another role player. And I think the Warriors get their guy to spread the floor. And then the second trade I have, this is a little bit more unrealistic, and this is a little bit biased, but I don't think that the Knicks are done this season or by the end of the year. I think that the Knicks are a star, not even a superstar. I think that the Knicks are a star away. I think, the Wolves are playing very well, but Karl-Anthony Towns is the perfect fit for this Knicks team. He is the front court presence that they need. And the Knicks definitely have the draft capital. I don't get all these fans saying that the Knicks don't have the firepower. They have a ton of future first-round picks, along with Julius Randle, who has been in trade rumors as of recent. They also have Quentin Grimes, who is a good young perimeter defender. He's only 23, and he's been proven. He was starting for the Knicks some of this year. He's been coming off the bench. And then you also have, some good young pieces. Deuce McBride could be shipped off in a deal even after that extension if they wanted to get rid of him. So the Knicks definitely do have the draft capital. I can see them going after a guy like Cat or even a guy like Lauri Markkanen, who I said he could be in trade rumors coming up at the deadline. I think that the Knicks can make that move so that they can get their second star to pair with Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, and his playoff disappearances finally get out of you.
All right, I'm about to loosen up my joints for this one. This one's going to be fun. First, Pascal, the Warriors. Yes, most likely. As a Warriors fan and as basketball fan, yeah, most likely. No question about it. It's just who they're throwing in. And Paul George even said it himself that he can play very well behind Steph and as another star and add a presence inside the paint. But second, no to Cat to the Knicks. That is not a good fit, and the T-Wolves need him right now. They're winning with him. I don't see a reason why they should ship away a good player who is valuable to their winning right now just because they can. While the Knicks may have the draft capital, it doesn't make a lot of sense for the T-Wolves to be like, yeah, you're playing great for us, bye, and just ship them off to New York. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Lauri Markkanen kind of makes sense, but I still disagree with it. Cat is just outlandish. And I think Isaiah said that word before, but I absolutely disagree with Cat being sent to the Knicks. Even though it's a mock trade, it just doesn't make any sense for the T-Wolves to give up a good big man and score just because they can.
Well, here's how I view it real quick, and I'll let the other two hop in, is I think that is more of an off-season deal. I'm looking at it as if the Wolves really don't do anything in the playoffs, we already know that Anthony Edwards is their guy. He's their franchise guy, And if they wanted to shake things up, They have Gobert in that center role. Why not move Karl-Anthony Towns for the Knicks have a bunch of picks. You're getting an all-star in return in Julius Randle, and you're going to get a couple of good young guards that could play well in Minnesota. That's my point. It's all theoretical, but I think that especially if the Timberwolves aren't able to do anything in the playoffs this year, that maybe they try and shake it up, and it could possibly happen.
I can see the postseason after whatever it's called after the season in the summer. But if they do make noise, I think Cat's a guarantee to stay there for quite a long time.
That's fair.
All right, so I'm gonna review over Guac's picks. Pascal to the Warriors, love it. Probably gonna happen. The most realistic trade in the league right now. No, Cat and Laurie are not going to New York. Especially Karl-Anthony Towns. I know it's a mock draft or trade, but it's so unrealistic that it shouldn't even be considered one. The Timberwolves are the best. They're like probably the best team in the NBA right now. With Ant, Gobert, and Cat, I feel like they definitely going to make a run in the playoffs. They're going to make past the first round, probably second round. Eastern or Western Conference Finals appearance. It's most likely to happen because of how good of a team this Wolves is. It's just not happening. Karl-Anthony Towns is too valuable for the Timberwolves right now. With Anthony Edwards creating enough shots as he can, Karl-Anthony Towns is as fine as he is sitting in the corner, popping because he is one of the best shooting bigs in the league. It's hard to guard his shot. He's not going. Laurie to New York, it does make sense, but you shipping Randall over there, I don't see it happening. I feel like you're not going to get a star if you trade Randall because of his contract one, and he's just not that good anymore. He's not an all-star anymore, I don't think. It's just not. I don't think Randall's happening, and the Knicks don't really have enough firepower. I feel like they had their opportunity with RJ and Quigley to find another star, maybe D. Mitch, but that chance is gone. They traded for OG. It has been working out so far. I feel like that's the move that they made. That was their choice, and they can't really move on after it. I just don't see it happen.
Sorry, as much as I don't enjoy the OG Anunoby trade, I think they should have traded for another guy in Toronto, being Pascal Siakam. Speaking of Pascal, I really like that first trade with him going to the Warriors. I think that's probably the most realistic trade out of everyone so far. But Karl-Anthony Towns going to the Knicks, I believe that's a little bit of a stretch. I know you said it could be a summer type of deal, but this year I don't think the Timberwolves would even consider trading him to the Knicks because Julius Randle, I know he's still to you, some New York fans, quote unquote all-star. His field goal percentage, not the best. He does put up very good shooting, but I think the Timberwolves having him, it just won't work. You have two primary ball handlers being Anthony Edwards and him on the court. You have Mike Conley, who's going to have to give up most of his assist type ball handling numbers to give the ball to Julius Randle, and Rudy Gobert's numbers would go down. I just don't think it works out for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the New York Knicks, I feel like, just don't have enough assets to come back from a trade like that.
Yeah, obviously a mock trade, a big if. I still think that the Knicks are that star player away, and I'm just trying to figure out something, how they can finagle their way. But we're going to move it on into our last segment. Rapid fire breakout rookies. So we're going to talk about guys, not, the Victor Wembanyama's and the Chet Holmgrens, guys who were taken later in the draft that have made the biggest impact. And I'm actually going to go first because I'm going to talk about the biggest steal of the draft, position-wise and numbers-wise. And that is my guy, the number 18 pick of this year's draft. It has to be Jaime Jaquez Jr., currently top 3 in Kia Rookie of the Year voting. He's averaging 14 points per game with 4 boards and over 50% shooting. I mean, he's been the perfect role player for the Miami Heat so far. And you just see he spent an extra year in college than expected, and he's just such a polished player. He just plays like he's been in the league for 5 years already. He looks a lot more polished than a lot of the other rookies. He has some of the best numbers in this rookie class. And the fact that he slid to 18, that Miami Heat are looking so far like they have one of the biggest deals of the draft. He definitely deserves his flowers so far for this first half of the year. Avery, I'm going to throw it to you next for your guy.
All right, I'll take it. I'm going to go. It's been a pretty Warriors-heavy podcast, even for me, but I'm going to go to the last pick in the NBA draft, Trayce Jackson-Davis. Warriors finally found themselves a young big who can get it done on both ends of the floor and is a defensive presence in his last 10 games, 7.2 rebounds. That is something that they desperately need, and he's earned the back to get in the rotation. And also Brandon Podziemski, averaging 10.5 points over the last 10 games, is one of their best scorers off the bench with Wiggins not performing well. I think these two were just gems in a gold mine. They have worked out perfectly for this struggling, desperate for anything Golden State team right now.
I'm gonna go Keontae George. I think he's not been getting his flowers as much as he's supposed to. I mean, with getting over 25 minutes a game, he's been scoring over 22 points. I mean, it's just amazing to see. But the fact that the Utah Jazz aren't giving him the minutes, if he was getting minutes like a Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, or Jaime Jaquez Jr., I think he would eventually be up there top 5 in Kia voting, but still a very good rookie season for the minutes he's been getting.
Izzy, throw it over to you next for your guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw out probably a bigger name in this rookie class, but he's still been really good. Derek Lively, the second from Dallas. The way he's been on the pick and roll with Luka and Kyrie, you've seen in games, it's really, really tough to guard. With how big he is, a 7'1" center. At Duke, he was a top rim protector in college, and he just carried that over to the NBA. His rebounding is there. His points is only going to go up once he lets the game come to him more and becomes more efficient with his shots. I think the only thing he has to really do is just develop a three-pointer. If he could do that, then it's really, really scary in Dallas with Luka, Kyrie, and Lively being that 1, 2, 3. Luka getting the role players, finally the role players that I think is going to get him somewhere in the playoffs. Probably a conference finals appearance, a finals appearance. With Porzingis, he held the ball a little bit too much. It wasn't really working out with him and Luka because those two were really heavy on the ball. But Derek Lively off the pick and roll, he's really good, really looking strong for this Dallas team, and his numbers are only going to go up after this. All to do, I think, is just develop a three-pointer. Probably not going to happen, but if he does, it's really scary.
Yeah, Lively's been that great fit next to Luka. The last guy I want to throw out, and then we're going to end this episode here. Jordan Hawkins, the guy from last year's national title team, is the guy that I think is also flown under the radar. Fell outside of the top 10 to number 14 in the draft. I mean, he's taking a big role. He's getting, Isaiah mentioned guys not getting minutes. He's getting the minutes off the bench for the Pelicans, and he's making the most out of his minutes. He's averaging just over 10 points per game on about 42% shooting from the field and playing. He's been one of the better perimeter defenders in this draft. I mean, so many just great young rookies, and Jordan Hawkins has definitely been one of those guys to step into a bigger role right away out of the draft. So I think he definitely deserves his flowers, especially for him being taken later in the draft. But that is going to do it here for this episode here. Once again, I'm Jocko Pirelli, joined here by Avery Stetz, Zalu, and Izzy Metal. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next week for episode 8.